Hi, this is Dr. John Weaver. I'm a psychologist at Stress Management and Mental Health Clinics. And what I'd like to do today is talk to you a little bit about how stress affects the way we think, and particularly in the wake of the pandemic that we've been experiencing recently. So the thing to realize is that when stress occurs, our brains first of all, activate that portion of the brain that's responsible for picking up threat. It's a small part of the brain called the amygdala, and the amygdala is always kind of scanning our environment, looking to see if there's a threatening event that occurs. When it picks up a threat, it reacts very, very quickly. In fact, the amygdala can go from being basically at rest to fully activated in about 33 milliseconds. It takes us 87 milliseconds to formulate a thought, which is still pretty fast, but you might notice that it takes almost 3 times as long to formulate a thought as it does to experience something as threatening. That has some implications for us. The first implication is that when I feel threatened, my first thought is always to try to explain the threat. Now, one of the ways that that shows up is that my brain then becomes fascinated with what could possibly be the worst possible explanation for the reason that I'm feeling threatened. You might notice, and I certainly noticed, that when the information about the pandemic started to come along, I became very tuned in to multiple news stories about the pandemic and what it might mean and how it progresses and what we need to do to keep ourselves safe and what are the possible worst case scenarios that could occur as a result of this. That's kind of a normal experience for our thought processes in the wake of threats. We spend extra time thinking about what could possibly be the worst outcome that we can imagine. That happens because our ancestors, when they were dealing with stress, if they could figure out the worst possible outcome, they might very well be able to avoid the predator or the belligerent tribe nearby or whatever. And if they could avoid it, then they had more children and their genes got into the next generation. So that's a very natural, normal response. It's balanced by a second kind of a response, and that is that our brains also look for what's familiar, and we start searching out information that matches what we already believe. So the other thing that happens at the beginning of the pandemic is that many of us, myself included, first of all started looking at, okay, well, here's something that confirms what I think. And so I'm going to be much more likely to read and believe this article because it seems like it matches what I already believe. The problem with it is that neither of those things, trying to figure out what's the worst possible outcome, trying to find out what matches what I already believe, neither of those things are particularly concerned with what's actually true. And that becomes the challenge for us, particularly in a situation like this, where there's a threat, but it's ongoing, it's not immediate. Now we have to let go of our predisposition to look at just what might go wrong, and our predisposition to find things that match what we believe, and do a search for what's actually true. That's hard, and it's made harder because there's a lot about this that's uncertain. We are learning more every day, and that means that things that we thought were true a week ago or 2 weeks ago are changing as we get more data, as things come into clearer focus. And that isn't because somebody's cheating us or misleading us. It's because what's true takes time for it to surface and for us to be able to notice it. So take the time and recognize that the search for truth is a harder thing to do than those more natural things. We'll still be pulled into the latest story about what could possibly go wrong, and we'll still be drawn into finding things that support our position, but don't forget to also look for the truth. All right, so check back often. We'll have additional little shorts for you that can help you to learn about how to handle this very difficult time. Thanks.